Hi everyone, Sid Walker here. Welcome. Today let's talk about how to create phone language that works for sales prospecting. Check the links below and the info below. I have a free school on overcoming call reluctance, which used to be my $800 internet course, which is now free as a school. So when you join, you can get a PDF of 30 free pages of my best-selling book on Amazon titled How I Conquered Call Reluctance. The title's longer than that, but that's the most important part. All right. I'm going to keep this short and give you some key information, key highlights, powerful stuff. So keep your mind open here and let me give you some ideas. So we're talking about making prospecting calls. And, the first you only have a few seconds to make the best possible impression. And you need to feel confident, relaxed, even enjoying yourself. That may sound like a stretch at this point, wherever you are with this, but that's not as far-fetched as you think. I mean, when you get the emotional baggage out of the way, doing telephone prospecting or any kind of prospecting really can become relatively easy and even routine. Okay, it's the getting the emotional baggage out of the way that's the tricky part. And in particular, when you realize you can't make prospecting calls and not make money. Everybody hear that? You can't make prospecting calls and not make money. I call it mystical momentum. There's something magical about making calls. It's like you're putting energy out there in the universe when you dial the phone. And so it's like the universe says, okay, Jim's making his calls or Mary's making her calls. Let's give him some help, and money falls out of the sky in your bank account. Okay, that's how I describe my program. All right, it's not linearly logical. It's more magical, but it works. It's hard to explain, but I've never seen it not work in over 5,000 clients. So, and of course, there are things you can do to increase the odds of a good call, and that's really what we're focused on here today. So, I like to start with something like, "Hello, John. This is Sid Walker. How are you?" Some say you sound like a salesperson if you ask that, but I want to get people to respond to me as quickly as possible, and get them included in the conversation. And also, when you ask somebody sincerely, how are you? You expect an answer. People can feel the difference. If you've got a telemarketer that calls me up and is saying how are you, like they could care less. Those don't go very far. So, and then second, their response tells you a lot about where they are. A lot of times when I've made calls, I can tell there'll be a pause for a few seconds, and then I know they're thinking, God, do I know this guy? Which is good, And so, but if somebody says to me, what do you want? What are you selling? How'd you get my number? I instantly say, I'm sorry, I dialed the wrong number, and hang up. Okay, I don't want to deal with negative people. I don't want to deal with anybody that's in a bad mood. It's just not going to work on this call. So I think the other thing that's interesting, in my own personal research, I would say, it's like less than 15% of the people are going to give you a hard time. It's probably more like 5 to 10%, if that. Certainly there's always some people in a bad mood or cranky in some way, But anyway, I'd like to say if something positive isn't happening in the first 15 seconds, get off the phone, okay? However you want to do that. Create emergency. UPS is here. I have to sign for a package. Let me call you back. Okay, any of those will work. I have some other ones. They're in my course. Some of them are pretty funny. All right. So that reminds me too of something I like to hear from my coaching clients is, when they, after a few hours of working on this, and I've got them so that they have a whole new mindset, and they've got, good language. A lot of times what I hear from people is, I'm surprised how nice people are. Okay, that's good. That's a sign of major progress. Okay. All right. So, most important thing to consider when writing phone language is to lead with your biggest benefits. Many people make this mistake, or make the mistake of trying to explain what they do with detailed scripts. That doesn't really work. Certainly there's value in scripts, but to me, to be reading a script, you're putting people to sleep, including yourself, because it's too slow, and it's boring for everybody. It's boring, mechanical, repetitive, yuck. So the first two things you've got to have happen here, you've got to get their attention and their interest. And, explaining what you do is never going to make that happen. So I talked to a number of people recently that are selling, AI answering services or AI receptionist kind of thing. And, so that every call that comes in for an appointment or for information gets, proper attention. And this can result in substantial increases in business. As I've talked to these people, some of them are pretty amazing, what they can do. So you lead with that. So, for example, phone language. Hello, John, Sid Walker. How are you? Right, John, I'll just keep you a second. If I could help you increase your business by 30% with a simple change in how you manage your incoming calls, would you want to hear more? Okay, you can make it shorter, but that's pretty short, and you shouldn't be going any longer than that. It's a sentence and a half ending in a question. And so remember, the goal is to lead with your biggest benefit in as few words as possible and get people to say, tell me more. Okay, that's the goal. It's that simple. If you're doing anything other than that, you're wasting your time. Let me say it again. Lead with your biggest benefit, or sometimes two. You can even lead with two benefits, but biggest benefits in as few words as possible in order to get people to say, tell me more. Simple as that. All right. I've worked with thousands of financial advisors. I've made thousands of calls. I have 16,000 connections on LinkedIn, and they're mostly financial advisors. And I've called all those people numerous times. And, my language goes like this. Hi, George, Sid Walker here. How are you? That's where typically I'll get the pause for a few seconds or go, God, do I know this guy? All right. George, just keep you a second. I've been a peak performance coach for over 35 years to financial advisors. And I've helped create some of the biggest producers in the business. And I was calling to see how you're doing and to see if I could be of help. So I think if I were going to say that again, because I want to say I've been a peak performance coach to financial advisors for 35 years. I'm not sure if I said that exactly that way. And then I say which establishes my credibility. That's something you want to do in there. I've created some of the biggest producers in the business. I don't have to say anything other than that. I know what I'm doing. And I was calling to see how you are doing, focus some interest on them, attention on them, and see if I could be of any help. That's led to a lot of good calls. Again, pretty simple language. And of course, you can tweak this stuff endlessly, but you get the idea. Lead with the biggest benefit, get people to say, tell me more. That's whatever you're doing, that's what you should be. That should be your goal, okay? Because you know what to do when somebody says, tell me more, right? Okay. All right. And for many of you, not having the right right language is your source of call reluctance. So this is an important thing to fix. And there's a definite way to do it that works. Okay. I talk to people all the time. They've been struggling with this for years. They're changing it all the time, and they can never get it right, and they feel uncertain and uncomfortable, hesitant, and it doesn't work. You got to get rid of those feelings. All right. So that's good for now. If you want to learn more about how to create phone language or effective phone language, and also get some more guts to get on the phone, guts or courage, okay? Uh, go to the Fearless Prospecting Group Skool, and the link's below there. It's fearlessprospecting.net. And then just click on the join button, and then you can get in there and get some of the free stuff, my book, and there's also some action quotes, my 40 favorite action quotes from the internet, and then look at classroom 4 and 5 on the ego. I always tell people, get to those right away. Of course, you can do it in any order you want; it doesn't matter. But 4 and 5 on the ego, because your ego is a self-sabotage machine, and most people don't understand that. So that's really important information. A lot of people think there's something wrong with them. There isn't. It's the part of if you're listening to the part of your brain that's a self-sabotage machine, that's not going to work. You're going to struggle making phone calls or prospecting calls. And then my classroom 10 is on effective phone language. So listen to that. All right. Also, you can schedule a free 15-minute quick start strategy call, I call it. So click on that link and you can get it and get on my calendar. This is not a sales call. It's designed to make sure you have the best resources in the school, and even in addition to the school. I've got 7 websites. I have another huge training website called sellingwithoutwrestling.com. It's mostly for financial advisors, but intangible sales. It's always been my specialty. Piece of paper, life insurance contract, investments, any kind of financial vehicle. Good at selling those. And so, anyway, that could get on, do the 15-minute call, and we'll kind of figure out where you are and get you the best resources and try to help you get started as fast as possible. All right. So thanks for joining us. We'll do this again, and bye for now. See, I figure if I got to find my stop button here, there it is. See you.